This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ramachandran, a spine surgeon from Bangalore. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Shiju, who is a good friend of mine and a wonderful scoliosis surgeon, for giving me this opportunity to talk in the first held webinar by Trivandrum Spine Society. I wish this society great success for upcoming webinars. So I'll be talking about the correction maneuvers that are being routinely used in adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. Most of the scoliosis is being managed conservatively by bracing methods, and some say 10% of the cases are being managed with surgical methods. And there has been a recent trends that has been a great development in instrumentation, right from the Harrington distraction rods to the powerful pedicle screw incision techniques, and thus the correction maneuvers also has changed from a simple distraction method to the complex derotations maneuvers now. So this textbook talks about idiopathic scoliosis. In this one chapter is written by Dr. Sukin Shah, gives a very clear explanation of the various maneuvers in a very easy way, and I would recommend everyone to read about this chapter. So there are n number of maneuvers that has been listed, in which I'll be discussing in the next coming slides only the few maneuvers which are practically useful and that will be commonly used in scoliosis surgeries. So this maneuver, the rod derotation maneuver, which is the most commonly used maneuver by most of the scoliosis surgeons as the first primary maneuver, thing is that that's a working rod. We call it as a working rod because the particular rod will be manipulated so as to attain deformity correction. In this, the working rod is the concave rod for a thoracic curve and a convex rod for the lumbar curve. Why is because when the rod, which is rotated, which is derotated, when applied on the concave side of the thoracic, will help in achieving the kyphosis. But once the convex rod is placed on the lumbar and when it's derotated, will produce lordosis. So that's why the concave rod is the working rod for thoracic curve and the convex rod is the working rod for the lumbar curve. This is most important point that everyone has to understand this. And in this maneuver, what really happens is the coronal deformity, the scoliotic deformity is getting converted into the proper sagittal normal kyphosis or a normal lordosis in cases of thoracic and lumbar respectively. But this concordance where the coronal deformity is getting converted into the sagittal normal correction will not be always concordant. So that's one disadvantage of this technique. And one more problem with this technique is when you derotate the concave rod on the thoracic side, the rib hump, which is the clinically worrying condition, becomes more prominent. And once it becomes more prominent, pushing down is a significant issue. So but still, this maneuver holds very good in achieving a good scoliosis corrections. So the next technique is the en bloc derotation technique, where the vertebra are manipulated and derotated with the concave rod as the axis of derotation. This point you have to understand. Here, the vertebra is rotated. In the previous one, the rod is derotated. Here, the vertebra is derotated by principle of en bloc spinal derotation, where the derotators are applied on the convex pedicles and the rod is placed on the concave side and the vertebra rotates with axis of rotation happening at the concave rod. In this particular maneuver, the concave side is pulled up and the convex side is pushed down. So this can be clearly understood with the video which I am shown here, where the first pedicle screws are inserted on the both sides. The vertical derotators are applied on the convex side without application of the rod, and the rods are applied on the concave side, where in such a way the convex side derotators are used in pushing down and derotating the particular vertebra, and the rods are applied and then caught on the concave side with multiple reducers, and the final correction or this mildest correction is also done by these extenders or the derotators placed on the convex side. So this technique differs from the previous technique, where each and every single vertebra is derotated. In that, the entire segments, say the apex with 2-3 vertebrae are derotated. In this, each and every single vertebra is derotated. That's how it differs from the previous technique. Here, both rods are placed as well, and the neutral vertebra, where the vertebra is least rotated, is locked onto the rod, and the next vertebra, which is a rotated vertebra, usually at the apex, is derotated in reference with the neutral vertebra. As you can see, if L1 is the neutral vertebra, it is locked to the rod, and the T12, the next vertebra, is derotated. For achieving this particular vertebral derotation, the vertical screws should be in the form of monoaxial screws or uniaxial screws for a proper derotation. So this particular derotation is proceeded from distal to the proximal T12, T11 in that way, and it gives a very good derotation of each and every single vertebra. But with the advent of recent devices, even with the polyaxial screws, this is possible, as shown in this video, where the two screws on the concave and the convex side are connected by crossbars, where this construct becomes a triangular technique, triangular construct, so that if one of the screw is rotated, the other screw also rotates, and that it behaves like a monoaxial screws, and each and every vertebra is derotated in the similar form of that previous method. So this is called as a direct vertical derotation technique. So these techniques are done at the end to correct the rotation deformities of the vertebra. So the next maneuver is the cantilever maneuver, which is usually followed on the convex side of the deformity, as the I would say it is a neutralization rod, but with recent instrumentations like K2M, this maneuver can be used as a predominant maneuver for correcting the deformity. In this technique, you can see the rod is applied on the concave side, and it is serially and sequentially reduced from cranial to caudal. In the picture which is shown to the left, you can see the two rods are applied, where the concave rod is used as the working rod, and convex rod, which is used as a neutralization rod, is applied in the cantilever mechanism, where the rod is reduced from cranial to caudal in such a way that the spine is shifted towards the rod. The next technique is the differential rod contouring, which is not the prime maneuver, but it is used in reducing the hump. How? Because when the concave rod is kept in hyperkyphotic, because usually the concave side is at the depth, so that can be pulled outside by a hyperkyphotic concave rod, and the convex side, which shows the hump, can be pushed down by a hypokyphotic convex rod. So the other techniques like compression destruction is done at the end of towards the end of the procedure, where the destruction is done at the concave side and compression is done at the convex side for finer achievement of corrections. And the most important point is, in cases of shoulder imbalance, when compression is done on the side of higher shoulder, that pulls down the shoulder down. So similarly, if distraction is done on the side of shoulder which is at a lower side, it will push the shoulder up. So this helps in achieving a shoulder balance. In situ rod bending is used very rarely in case of adolescent with scoliosis, where we can achieve finer corrections of deformity, but it's predominantly used in cases of rigid deformities like adult scoliosis. So the other maneuver that can be used are translatory techniques, which is more used in case of side loading screws. Here, the spine, which is in deformity, is getting translated towards a normal contoured rod. So this is how I usually follow a surgical correction maneuver in case of scoliosis, where I expose through posterior approach. Most times I do only posterior surgeries for scoliosis. Then, sorry, I release adequately, usually the soft tissues, this is the bony soft tissues. And I do predominantly of Smith-Peterson osteotomies. And once release is adequate, I use pedicle screws, usually the top loading screws placed strategically. And once pedicle screw insertion technique is done, the next most important reduction maneuver which I start doing is I would contour the rod in a differential way. As I told you before, I would do a contouring in such a way. I do a hypokyphosis on the convex side and hyperkyphosis on the concave side. Once it's done, I would place the working rod, which is the concave rod, on the thoracic. That's the most common curve which we usually encounter, and I would place on the concave side, and then I rotate it 90 degree away from the midline. I am manipulating the rod away from the midline. So once that particular 90-degree rotation, T-rotation is done, almost most of the deformity vanishes off. And the second rod is the convex rod. I apply on the convex side by anterior, starting from cranial to caudal, as shown in this next picture. Once this is done, almost 80% to 70% of the expected correction is achieved. The finer corrections are usually done by doing multiple rotations, where I use the special derotators in the form of a triangulation technique, which I already described, and then achieve a finer direct vertebral derotation of the particular material, and then I decorticate, and then further I do bone grafting. So to conclude, a surgeon should know each and every corrective maneuvers that is available for a proper correction, because it's usually a combination of the correction maneuvers that are being used for a perfect scoliosis correction. To achieve a proper surgery, it's not just the maneuvers that's important. The entire surgery is based on my strong pedicle screw construct. So the pedicle screw foundation is the most important thing for a proper corrective maneuver. So this is my team where I work in Saka Hospital.